quick on this crypto legislation that seems to be hung up in the Senate. Secretary, do you expect that the Clarity Act will, in fact, come back for a markup? And why are we having a debate about bank margins? Where do you stand on this? Do you think crypto platforms should be able to pay rewards, pay customers for moving stablecoin or money out of traditional bank deposit accounts and keep them on crypto platforms? Where are you on that issue?
Again, Maria, I think what we're seeing in the crypto market over the past few months means more than ever that the U.S., we need market structure, we need clarity, and we need to get this across the line this spring. We got a few recalcitrant actors who said, well, it'd be better to have no legislation than the legislation we don't want. And I think both on the banks, the other crypto firms are united against them. So we need to get this across the line. The U.S., under President Trump's leadership, the U.S. is becoming the crypto capital of the world with our best practices, best regulation, and for crypto to remain a viable digital asset and move forward, we need to get this Clarity Act done.
So you think it will be? It'll come back fairly soon then?
I'm optimistic, and there's bipartisan support here.
Now, you guys probably remember that video clip because I did include it in a recent video. I wanted to replay it, and I actually wanted to put it at the beginning of this video because I want you guys to realize what's happening here. We now have the U.S. government blaming, and he didn't name any actors, but we already know who the actors are that they're mentioning. They're essentially blaming Coinbase and Brian Armstrong that they're holding this bill up. They're the main problem here. I want you guys to realize that now is the best time to wake up. Now is the time to really open your eyes because I get it. We want regulations. We want this space to be regulated. I don't think that regulations are going to lead to price action immediately. Like, I don't think that we're going to see regulations pass and all of a sudden we go to the moon. Listen, crypto never needed regulations before. We still don't need regulations for prices to go crazy. I just want to make sure that you guys know that. But the main thing that we are focused on here with regulations is that, yes, it does support utility-based assets like XRP, HBAR, XLM, etc. But the main problem that I have right now with this bill, it's not Coinbase that's holding this bill up. The bill was already written up. Everyone agreed on it. Coinbase even agreed on it until we started to witness the bankers move in. A lot of people don't know this, but back in the beginning of December, bankers started to meet with Congress. That's when they started to rewrite the bill. That's when they started to change the text. And that's where we started to witness the banning of stablecoin yield. Now, I want to go over a lot of things here. Number one, let's go over the big risk here to the big banks. $6.6 trillion in bank deposits are at risk. U.S. bankers warn that yield-bearing stablecoins could draw up to $6.6 trillion out of the traditional bank deposits, potentially threatening local lending. Regulators say any big shift would not happen overnight, but concerns are growing. This right here is what everyone should be paying attention to. Like, this is the main key point. I saw a post from Heonin on X, and he said, banks to Congress, if people can earn 3.5% on stablecoins, they'll put 6.6 trillion out of our 0.1% accounts. That's right. $6.6 trillion fleeing the traditional banking sector. Yeah, that's called competition. Welcome to capitalism. Now, again, everyone has been painting Coinbase as the bad guy here. I want you guys to realize that, number one, I don't care about Coinbase. In fact, I don't care about any of these centralized exchanges. However, I will say this. Coinbase single-handedly, along with all of the other platforms in this space that have been offering stablecoin yield, have forced the banks to innovate. Now they are terrified because they know that they only offer 0.1% on accounts. And they're saying here that they'll pull $6.6 trillion out of our accounts. Because when you look at the game here that's being played, crypto has the upper hand. Crypto has the leverage. That's why I said that this is the real reason that they're stalling legislation right now. It's not Coinbase. The US government is trying to point the finger at Coinbase and at Brian Armstrong. I made a post regarding this video clip, actually. And I said here, I honestly feel bad for Brian Armstrong and the Coinbase team. Listen, I don't feel bad for them that they're, doing, their business is getting hurt by this or anything like that. No, I feel bad that they're essentially, being called the enemy here when they're really not. I said that the blame is being pushed onto Coinbase for the crypto bill not passing. But realistically, if Brian didn't care about consumers, he would be cheering for this bill the way it is. Now, again, we know that Coinbase, obviously their business model is built around stablecoin yield as well. They make a lot of money off of USDC. However, if they really didn't care about consumers, they would essentially just say, you know what? Yeah, ban yield. They know that customers are still going to hold USDC on their platform. This means that they no longer have to pay out, 3 to 5% on the stable coins, and they could just, be greedy like banks and just have that money on their platform, and they could still lend that money out into DeFi protocols, earning money on that, money essentially just like a bank. I mean, at the end of the day, they don't need to, go against this bill at all. I said here that we should all be thanking Brian for having a spine and standing up against the banks. This bill was extremely pro-bank, anti-consumer, and anyone saying that we should just pass it without negotiations clearly didn't read it. The blame should 100% be on the banks that should be paying us 5%, but instead they are too greedy and love to eat on our dime. They use our money, enrich themselves, and then target any competition that threatens their profits. Stablecoin yield, for an example. As an industry, we should be supporting Brian and Coinbase, not attacking them. And, a few people definitely commented in a positive way, but for the most part, it was a negative crowd saying, oh no, Coinbase is the enemy here. One positive comment was from Crypto Sensei that said, yeah, you caught that right. I talked about this yesterday in a video I made with this exact clip. The White House is not happy with Coinbase. The White House is pushing their own agenda, and it's not good for the American people. They are now on the bank side. And yeah, everyone is starting to flip on the banker side, even crypto OGs. Which is why I made another post regarding this video post that I said, wow, the comments on this post are honestly disappointing. Imagine for a second that this industry at one point was based around dethroning the banks. We have now done a 180, and it seems as though we will do anything for regulations, even if it means sacrificing a large piece of the space for bankers' profits. I understand that bankers will play on this field. TradFi is converging with crypto, and of course I know that crypto was never supposed to be a private, uncontrollable system. At the end of the day, though, we have for the first time in history the leverage over banks and the opportunity to rewrite the rules. Now you might be wondering, well, Nick, what kind of leverage do we have? Well, listen, we're offering 5% yield, 3% yield. Even the DeFi side of this market is still offering well over 10+% yield. The banks are never going to do that. Now I ask you this. With all the leverage and this crucial opportunity, should we, the consumers, give the power to the banks in this new system? Taxpayers have paid far too much bailing out these big banks while they get fat and consumers starve. And yeah, listen, it seems as though like everybody just forgets about 2008 and how the big bankers actually got richer during that crisis while a lot of the retail sector essentially lost everything. The big bankers were bailed out, like always. Even recently back in 2023, if you guys do remember the banks going belly up, guess who was able to swoop in and buy them up? Oh yeah, that's right, JP Morgan. And going off of regulations, a bank is not supposed to be holding 10% or more of the nationwide deposits. Guess what JP Morgan was holding? Well over 10% plus. This is why the bankers are constantly enriching themselves. They do not care about regulations. They do not play by the rules. But now with crypto, they have to. But again, if we're just going to allow them to jump into the space and rewrite the rules in their favor while the White House supports them and, Congress is, Congress, most of these politicians their campaign donations come from the American Bankers Association and these big banking organizations. So obviously, yeah, they're going to push their stance as well, and it's most likely going to be in support of the big banks. I question, why are we, the consumers, so against Coinbase and so pro-banker? Was it just because this is benefiting Coinbase's business, the fact that they can pay out yield? Well, if that's the case, anything that's good for any crypto business in the space, we should immediately be against, right? It's ridiculous that we have to just say, all right, yeah, this bill is great. We should just pass it. Who cares about Coinbase? It's not about Coinbase. Even if it wasn't Coinbase here, even if it was Ripple standing against this bill, again, I would be in support of Ripple, because at the end of the day, we should not be getting down on our knees for these bankers. There is no reason why we should allow bankers to rewrite the rules in this new system. That's why I said here that I support proper regulations that will allow crypto to thrive, innovation to accelerate, and for the barriers to entry to be removed. What I don't support is regulations that will keep the bankers fed by protecting their profits, because even in that video clip, all right, you literally heard in this video clip, why are we talking about bankers' profits? Why are we talking about the underlying for these bankers? We should not care about bankers' profits. We are talking about crypto regulations, not bankers' profits or the health of bankers in general. We need to level the playing field and ensure that competition thrives. Guess what creates competition? Making sure that the banks have to adapt and compete. But if we just get rid of stablecoin yield, and all of a sudden platforms like Coinbase or Kraken or any of these major exchanges, if they can no longer offer yield on stablecoins, the banks have no threat at all. Sure, you could throw your money into DeFi, but again, you have significant risk in a lot of those protocols. And again, most of them are, unsustainable. So yeah, they don't care if you go and throw your money to the wind in a lot of those DeFi protocols. The exchanges are their main target here, because again, a lot of those exchanges are very easy to, go on and throw your money into a stablecoin and just park it in, the yield generation opportunity. And that's what the bankers fear, because they know that normies are not going to go through the entire steps to jump into DeFi and put their stablecoins to work. They don't want competition. That's the main focus here, which is why I don't understand why we are trying to slash competition here just to get regulations through the, finish line. I said, I hate what this space has become with the constant begging of TradFi and the government to pump our bags. We need to lock in and make sure that we are aware of what we are asking for when we say to just pass the bill so that we can get clarity. The quote, "a bad bill is better than no bill," is a very dangerous quote. Why? Because we have no idea when we will be able to renegotiate the terms again, and who knows if we ever will be able to. A bad bill over no bill is not an excuse to keep the bankers happy. Give them scraps and that's it. We need to protect consumers and keep innovation alive. And yeah, listen, why should we just give the banks what they want? They haven't paid us on our money in our savings accounts at all. They give us 0.1% and expect us to be happy, while they earn well over 4+% on our money. Think about how ridiculous that is. So now we're just supposed to keep them fed and keep them happy? For what reason? Just so that we can get regulations for this space that will kill a big piece of, the space as well? Not to forget that there's a lot of pieces in that bill that also have anti-DeFi regulations. I fear what this space is headed towards, because if we think about what really is happening here, okay, the reason why I say wake up is because it starts with stablecoin yield. Okay, they start with banning stablecoin yield. We give them an inch. They take a mile. They start regulating DEXs, because again, the next phase would be decentralized exchanges, where you could offer your stablecoins for yield generation through liquidity pools and DeFi protocols and things like that. And then they go after cold storage. Now you might say, well, Nick, how can they do this? Well, we've already witnessed Ledger adhere to regulators by going into wallets and identifying specific users. and confiscating assets within those ledger wallets. This has happened before. So the fact that, again, we're cheering for these types of regulations that protect bankers, I don't think that you guys realize where this goes next. Because again, when will be the next time that we can renegotiate this bill? In a year? In 2 years? 3 years? Never? This is the problem with this space at the moment. Now, of course, we did get a big update, by the way, which was the fact that the White House stablecoin meeting that happened on Tuesday, well, this ended without a deal. No agreement was reached after the closed-door meeting between banks and crypto firms on stablecoin yield. Banks came in with written prohibition principles pushing for a near total ban on rewards tied to holding, using, or storing stablecoins. Their core argument, yield on stablecoins could pull deposits out of traditional banks and hurt lending. Again, this is the main issue. Like, there's no issue with stablecoin yield besides the fact that it hurts their business. This is literally why crypto is thriving, because it offers consumers something that bankers cannot because they're too greedy. Like, if we're thinking about this logically, Coinbase doesn't have to offer us any yield. They could offer us 0.5% yield if they wanted to. This is clear competition. This is what competition leads to, which is the banks trying to fight back, trying to argue that this is too innovative. This is way too efficient. This is going to harm our underlying business because we're too greedy and we don't want to pay out any yield. This is a big issue. Crypto firms push back, saying rewards and incentives are basic platform features and banning them protects banks, not consumers. Again, this is the main issue. Like, when we think about Coinbase, this is why I keep saying that Coinbase is not the enemy here. There was also only one small shift. Banks showed limited openness to exceptions if rewards are tied strictly to transactions. The White House is now pushing both sides to finalize compromise language by March 1st. Talks will continue, but for now, the biggest blocker to U.S. crypto market structure is still unresolved. The only blocker here is literally the fact that banks are terrified that stablecoin yield is going to cause a massive capital swing out of bank accounts into the stablecoin market because we offer way too great yield because they don't want to pay us at all on our money. And they've been doing this for decades. This is a big issue. Again, no matter how you look at this, Coinbase is not the issue. Coinbase is simply not the issue. I don't care if it's Coinbase. I don't care if it's Binance. I don't care if it's Kraken, whoever. Like, you could replace Coinbase with any exchange, any crypto company. You can replace Brian Armstrong with any CEO, any founder from the space. I will still support them because at the end of the day, this is not a Coinbase problem. This is not a crypto firm problem. This is the banks being terrified and utilizing everything in their power to make sure that this bill is stopped right now unless they get their way. And now we have the government supporting the banks. What a big surprise, right? They've always supported the big banks and screwed consumers. 2008 is a perfect example of this. This is why I keep telling you guys, open your eyes and wake up to what's really happening here. The war on crypto still is happening. No matter who is the president, no matter what admin we have, there's still silent moves being made regarding Operation Choke Point 2.0. They're trying to squeeze out all of the life behind crypto that makes crypto and competes with TradFi. The very thing that allows crypto to be this extremely disruptive asset class, they want to try to kill. And it's because it harms their business model. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video.